Back to Creatio's product battle, where we are comparing side by side products, technologies, and usability of software. And today, I would like to welcome back Scott Wolf into the product battle. Scott, hi there. How are you?
Alex, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, as always. So, Scott, today we're comparing Creatio with Infor, but in a little bit different perspective that we have compared it before, right? We are going to be comparing the mobile applications and basically the mobile workforce. Is that right?
Yeah, we wanted to show what this looks like for the field sales folks, people that are out with their boots on the ground. Some of the previous Infor ones, we've looked at service and the general overview of the system. Hopefully, when people start traveling again soon, we'll be able to show what this looks like for those folks that are out traveling and shaking hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we all hope that traveling is going to be back on the schedule very soon, right?
Yeah.
But as any process, any project, right, you have to plan ahead. So even though we're going to be back to traveling in maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months, you have to start looking at some of the mobile applications right now. And Scott,
That's
before
right.
we jump into the product comparison itself, right, let's have like a quick chat around what do you feel is most important for a mobile workforce, for a mobile user, from application standpoint, from functionality standpoint?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good kickoff. When I started doing CRM 10, 11 years ago, mobility was a nice to have. You talk to clients and, you'd ask them what was important for them, for a successful CRM implementation. And it was always pillared around the desktop. And, they'd say, oh, well, we've got some mobile workforce, that mobility would be a golly gee, it would be nice to have. And anymore, most of the conversations start with mobile. People pay their mortgages, they book airline flights, they do everything in mobile. And there's really an expectation for those folks to use mobile to do business work. So I know, the products we're battling today have both spent some time and energy in their mobile applications. So that way their sales reps and field technicians or whomever are using it when they're out and about are able to do their jobs efficiently and effectively, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or Android, when they're out and about. Because people aren't chained to their desk anymore. They are a little more freer to go out and about. So,
Or at least they
CRM's
used
no
to be.
different.
They
That's
used
right.
to be last year, and they used to be traveling a lot more. Well, I do agree
Yeah.
that mobility is not I would like to have. Like, it's not optional. And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of prospects that we talk to, they say that okay, we need to have a mobile application. Maybe not just for the sales folks, but for field technicians, for field workers in general, right? Even marketing department would like to have some of the dashboards, some of the functionality displayed for them on their mobiles, right? Because
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
hopes that their employees are going to be working 24/7, even if they're on the road, even if they're going to the office, even though it
We've
might
always
not.
got these things on our hip, don't we?
That exactly, or more than just one, right? You might have two phones, you might have a tablet, or a huge, basically a portfolio of devices that you might be using instead of your
Yeah.
laptop. But okay, like I agree with everything you've said, right? Mobility is important. Of course, we're going to talk about different aspects of the mobility, right? And even though there are certain CRMs and there are certain products and there are certain users that are mobile first, as they're called, right? When they're doing all of the work of the mobile, they're not touching desktop. Uh, Classically, usually, right? Enterprise CRMs are as well incorporating desktop into their work, right?
Correct. Of course.
Because there are
Yeah.
certain stuff that it is just easier and more natural to do off a desktop. So today
Yep.
we're going to be starting with the desktop view. We're then going to be talking about the mobile apps, our mobile views themselves, right? And per usual, in the end, we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about some limitations that we're encountering. Now, before we
Yep.
jump into it, just wanted to remind our viewers that on their broadcast page, the bottom of the screen, they've got option to vote for either Creatio or Infor when it gets to the functionality, right? You've got the chat area or the option to access the chat area in between them. At all times, you can change your vote. You can change the application that you're actually voting for, and
Awesome. Yeah, so before we kind of put into that role play or the story of the field sales, the tech, what I want to do is do a little bit of a lay of the land, what this looks like in the basic navigation for some of the folks that maybe haven't seen some of the previous Infor battles. Um, so the main navigation within Infor is really along the left-hand side. And there's four main pillars. One of the differentiators is, and we'll get into licensing and pricing later, is Infor is really an all included in one licensing type. So they have sales, where we'll spend most of the time today, where we have accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, quotes, and orders, things that you would expect a salesperson to interact with. But there is a full marketing, service, and support. So they're all included in the one licensing. By clicking into these is how you would navigate, not too different from the Creatio interface. And then there's kind of some quick actions across the top. So we can see recently viewed, kind of the breadcrumbs of where I've navigated through the system. I can create new or schedule activities. But when you log in, it takes us to the dashboard, right? This is kind of the welcome screen is what Infor calls it. And this is where a general salesperson would log in, right? When they come into the system, they want to plan their day. They want to see where they need to go, who they need to visit. Over a cup of coffee, they come in and they say, what's my day look like? So the dashboards are pretty flexible. I have the ability to look at my activities for the day. These are different dashboards. So I'm logged in right now looking at a sales rep specific dashboard. So I can see what do I need to do? Who do I need to call? Where do I need to go? Do I have any overdue activities? What's my pipeline look like, for example?
Scott, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but when you say the dashboards are pretty flexible, you mean Creatio flexible or you mean Infor flexible?
They're Infor flexible.
Okay.
They're flexible enough where you can change them around. You can see I'm dragging and dropping. It is a web-based application, so you can move things a little bit. And I can come in and I can create new content, but I'm not making major customizations. I can kind of put some lipstick on it a little bit and make it maybe a little more preference. Even if I'm a sales guy and Alex, you're my colleague on the sales team, our dashboards can look a little different. But if I want to make big configurations to them, I'm probably going to IT to build a whole new dashboard for me.
Okay. Yeah,
I can configure it a little bit.
That's fair.
Yeah. And you can have different dashboards too, right? So I was looking at the sales rep. We could have, sales management. They could look at orders and invoices and, the same premise that Creatio has, right? Different dashboards for the different users. But I could drill through into these and look at my activities or what I would need to do within this. But the one thing I wanted to start was, kind of some lead conversion, because us salespeople, even before I go out and talk to my clients, I do kind of qualify leads. So I'm going to click into a lead and just show what Infor does with our leads and how we convert them. Because maybe I'm following up on some leads from a trade show before I go to my next trade show and work booth duty. I want to show what this looks like. So leads within Infor are kind of one-dimensional, meaning you have a company and a contact, and then we click this convert qualified lead, and it would move it to an account and contact in the system. But you can schedule activities, phone calls, meetings, all of that. You can have your typical BANT questions if you want to have certain questions you want to ask your lead. Do you have a budget for this project? The timing, all of that, the lead source, where it comes from. But then you can just click a quick convert qualified lead, and this would move it from a lead to an account and contact in the system. So that's one of the differentiators between Infor and Creatio is they keep leads separate. They have a different kind of mantra for their leads. Good, bad, and different. They just do it a little differently. Mm-hmm. And then once I click convert, it would move it to the account contact table, and I could have my opportunities, invoices, and orders against it there.
Yeah, so just like what we've discussed previously, right? Conversion of a lead is not a process, right? It's just sign off, okay, this is converted, right? And you don't have any kind of a workflow behind it. You don't have any kind of a conditional transitioning, right? You don't have anything that is going to be supporting the users on it, right? It's all depending on the human factor that the person who is managing this lead knows what they're doing, right? Which is not always the case, as we know after many years of working in CRM.
Sure. Yeah, you get a new hire that comes on board, and you don't have you got to tell them what the next steps are and what's expected of them. They have some of that in the opportunity where you can have some of that intelligence, but at the lead level, there are no next steps, what to expect.
Correct.
It's, you know, I can
Correct.
schedule myself a new phone call for tomorrow, but I have to know to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it gets to like, kind of jumping into this process of identifying some accounts you want to visit, right? Kind of starting this workflow. So how would I using Infor actually maybe see the my accounts on location or like on a map? How would you filter those down?
Yeah. So if we go into account, so if we kind of say that the sales guys qualified some leads, and I want to start planning a trip, right? Infor does have the ability to create some filters and save them as groups, is what they call them. So if I'm looking at the account view, you can see here there's in this view 1,155 accounts that I have visibility to. I can use the filters off to the side and say, let's say I'm going to a new trade show and I want to invite some customers. I can come in and say, okay, well, I want to look at all of my customers that are in the state of Missouri. So you use these filters on the side and that are type customer, right? So that's kind of a simple filter, but I said, give me a list of all of my accounts that are customers in a certain state, right? And it took that list from 1,100 down to 8. So now with that filter, I could add it to a new group and I could create a new group at the top, and they would be my Missouri customers. I could reference them later. I could push these to a dashboard if I wanted. So when I log into Scott's dashboard, I see my Missouri customers.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So, let's probably spend a few more minutes on Infor side, right? So, how would you show them on schedule? Like, what would be the process there? Is it just based off the group?
Yeah. So if we take a look here at this list, we could, in theory, click into the first one. Kind of the more manual option is now I'm in Abbott Limited's account. You'll notice it saved the group here. So I've got that filter. So I can start clicking through into these and it'll take me to them. And I could just start calling them. That's kind of option one. And I could invite them. If I save it as a group, I could get into marketing and I could create a quick marketing blast. Or I could come in here and Infor has what they call Contour. Excuse me, sorry. That will allow me to segment my accounts geographically. So what I did there is I pulled a list of all of my accounts that are in Missouri, but it does have the ability to use kind of some geocoding, and I could say, give me a list of all of my accounts that are 25 miles, and I'll put in my zip code here in Phoenix. So you'll be able to see all of the accounts that are close to me here, right?
Yeah.
So now I have a list of all of the accounts that are within a certain distance of my zip code. So you can see here in Scottsdale and Gilbert, and here's that visibility of those customers.
Okay. All right. Well, that is fair, right? This is actually a pretty good feature, right? To showing some accounts like within a specific radius, even though you don't actually need to do like a radius-based search, right? You can base it off some zip codes and stuff like that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
In Infor, or what you have in Infor, right? We've got our own dashboards. Creatio does offer marketing sales service on a single platform, right? So it's kind of unified CRM. The dashboards in our case are not just Infor flexible, but they are Creatio flexible, right? So there's more ways of configuring them and creating views of the data because you've got everything in one platform. It's pretty easy to kind of visualize it. And we've got a very different way of managing the leads, right? Very different way of helping the sales rep of actually navigating through them, right? Where we do have a workflow behind it. So I'm not going to be focusing on that one right now. What I do want to spend some time on, though, is actually somewhat comparing the functionality of finding and building, and visualizing those accounts. So obviously, a similar way of searching for records in Creatio is based on specific folders, right? And this is where, because we've got all of this data on a single platform, you can actually mix and match different conditions in order to save a search on your accounts, right? With those are based on their geography, based on history of communication, based on history of sales or marketing history, or even behavioral history, right? All of that is kind of available natively for us. And of course, if I'm switching to the filtering view, right, I can actually say that I want to include a specific criteria for this search for my account. So for example, I want to look up all of the accounts that are located in a specific city. And as you know, I'm located currently in Cyprus. So I'm going to search for those accounts that are in my city, in Nicosia, right? Or Nicosia, depends on how you say it. But in the same way, I could actually, start with Nicosia. I could add other cities, uh, if I would like to. And it's all pretty simple. I could add additional conditions. Even if we want to say that the zip code should actually start or should contain with 10, which is quite normal for Cyprus, right? And kind of depending on how you're going to building this view, it's actually going to give you a list of results, right? From there, obviously, because this might be a trade show view, I can actually save it into a folder, right? I can say that this is my Nicosia folder right here, and from there, access it at all times. But one of the things that even though we don't have the nearby or the radius search right now, I know this is something that we are going to be releasing in October with our latest major release, 7.14. 7.14, yeah, that is correct. Wait, sorry, 7.17. Oh my God, I don't know what's happening with me today. But also there is a way of kind of replicating that feature, that search, even by zip codes right now, right? And also the way that you can then, even from the list, visualize all of your accounts is you can actually select all in the list, right? And we can actually show them on map right there, right? So straight away, it will show you all of the accounts that you've selected based on their primary addresses, right? Because in Creatio, you also can have multiple definitions of address. So this is also kind of available in Creatio, and I assume if we're going to be switching to your view right now, you can also show us how to not only search for them, but show them on the map. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, right. That's correct.
Perfect. So yeah, so just wanted to remind guys that we do have very similar, if not the same, if not better way of searching for accounts, right? Combining different data, combining different search criteria, and of course visualizing that search criteria on the map later on when we need to. So Scott, let's probably switch to your screen right now, and let's move back to Infor and see what else you guys have.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want me to show that mapping real quick before we move to mobile?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So after I would look at my search results here, right? My accounts that are close to me physically, I could save these as a group, right? If I wanted to, and we can get a little creative with these. I did a very high level search of all accounts. I can kind of do a little bit of the filters like you were showing, where show me my accounts that are certain type or subtype, meaning I want to look at my manufacturing customers versus retail customers or whatever. But the benefit here is then I can put them on a map, right? So it'll allow me to take these and then kind of get some turn-by-turn direction. So if I want to go visit some of these customers, I can say, hey, I don't want such a busy day. I'm not going to visit 20 customers today. Maybe I'll visit these 8. And it does put a pin on this map here in the greater Phoenix area. I have the ability of even kind of rerouting some of these. And so I can see where they're at and then even get directions to them. Now you'll see this is having me drive all over the city, crisscrossing back and forth. There's no real intelligence it's going to do in the order that I tell it to. But starting here in my little neck of the woods, it would have me going. But if I'm going to London and I don't know London very well and I need to get some turn-by-turn directions, this will actually, tell me what streets to turn on, where to go. And so I could print these out kind of like the old school MapQuest of a while back and have the printables on my car, and
basically
know where to go.
You're going treasure hunting within.
Yeah. So it is nice if I'm, in an area I don't know and I know I need to visit these customers either as a service technician or I'm, delivering donuts as a sales guy. I can go and get my turn-by-turn direction to go see these, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense, right? There's a lot of questions that I would kind of raise based on this functionality, right? Because first of all, it kind of looks like it's just basically throwing you into Google Maps view, right, with some of those preset searches,
It is
and
exactly.
it's somewhat building this route between them. Doesn't really do it within Infor, right? It's basically like an iframe, like a slightly adapted iframe within Infor.
You'll notice it popped open a whole new window. That's exactly what it's doing, Alex. Yeah, it is not native within. And actually it's an add-on that Infor bought quite some time ago,
Yeah.
and tried to kind of made it their own. So it uses the main account view. It uses the Infor data, but it does populate it through kind of a third party called proximity search.
Yeah, but
But yeah.
where I'm going with this specifically, right? So say this is just bringing you to Google Maps. Does it actually
Mhm.
affect the schedule of the sales rep that is building this? Does it actually
No,
create specific tasks within that schedule?
no.
Okay,
No,
now
it's just this is just a routing. I don't know how to get around. It's going to tell me, in the morning, I'm
just
going
a
to
view,
see what the
basically. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sanford brokers, then I'm going to go to this company and this company. It doesn't have, you would then go in theory to Sanford brokerage and I could schedule an activity manually here. If
Hmm.
I know my first stop is Sanford brokerage, I could come to them here, click this and schedule an activity, but that would be a manual process.
Okay. All right. So I want to just bring this up, like, draw the attention of our viewers to the fact that this is just a view of the schedule, right? So this is somewhat what we've shown, when we've seen in creation when we were just going through the display on map, right? And this is going to be maybe one of the critical differences between the route scheduling piece of functionality. Let's just call it this way. All
Yeah.
right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what this is.
Yeah. So yeah, let's carry on with the. Or you know what? Let's probably just take a little bit different route before we start switching, showing the mobile apps, right? Let's maybe switch back to
Right.
my screen one more time, right? Because I feel like this is so important. Just I want to bring it up straight away, right?
I agree.
So
I agree. Yeah.
if we're back to my screen, right? Basically, uh, as we've seen, right, displaying the accounts on map, it is doing it within Creatio, right? It does show you the kind of the primary positions, and just like in for this doesn't affect the schedule. But an important differentiator here, critical differentiator, is actually how do you book a visit or a meeting in your schedule, right? And I would like to remind our audience and our viewers that obviously we do have our, uh, you know, schedule management functionality. We've got our inbuilt kind of a calendar view. This might be just displayed as a list view as well. And it's pretty simple to work with it. But part of this functionality for fields and for field workforce, right, is actually this visit scheduling functionality that you can see right here on the screen. And the way that it does, it actually brings up your view into three main areas, right? On the left hand side, you've got all of the accounts that you are actually working with and you're kind of managing, right? So these are my accounts. You've got the schedule itself, and you've got the map view, right? So this is actually where you are located right now, right? And I'm still in Nicosia. And the way that you would actually book a meeting is that you can take a new record from the left hand side, right? Let me just take clears off, and you can kind of drag and drop them to the schedule. So it kind of adds it to the schedule right here. And then you can use the pinpoints to actually bring the views over the route that you would actually need to take. So you can kind of see here that it's kind of building it all together, right? It's kind of showing you how I'm going to be going through one step to another. But also what I can do, I can display 2 days and two routes on the same day, right? And you can kind of see here an orange and a blue pinpoint, right? So eventually what I could do, I could actually say that I want to add another one to the schedule right here, right? This is going to be showing me a different view, and then I can play around it and I can start rebuilding my schedule, my views, just to make it more natural, make it more consistent throughout the day, right? So it's going to help me to rebuild this by simply visualizing in different colors. How can I restructure my day? How can I visit my accounts a little bit better? right? And again,
Yeah.
because these items in my schedule are actually going to be my activities and the checkpoints in my to-do list in the day, this is going to help us make the field worker a little bit better, a little bit more efficient when it gets to the mobile application, right? And this is another critical difference that we're going to be reviewing right now. So Scott, probably at this moment, let's switch back to your screen and let's talk about the mobile views themselves, right?
Yep. I think that's why we're here, right? Is to show what this looks like and how, people use it while they're out and about.
Yep.
So I'm using an emulator, and that's one of the things we can get to in a minute, but I want to start with explaining that is one of the differences is Infor's mobile is not an app. It is, and we can get into that in a second, but it is an HTML5 website. You access it via a browser, so it's a browser-based mobile link. So I'm able to access it using this emulator. And so it doesn't matter if I'm on an iPad, an iPhone, an Android, a BlackBerry, whatever device you're running, you just go into your browser and you open up the URL with your same username and password as if I was sitting at a desk, but it takes you to the mobile UI instead.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be that confident with the BlackBerry. They are a little tricky. They have always
That's always, if you're from 10 years ago or in Canada, I think they still use BlackBerry.
This is something that is called an adaptive UI, right? Adaptive web UI.
Correct.
So it is a little bit reconfigured to be accessed specifically for mobile devices, right? Because they can be recognized. But in the same time, this is not a progressive web app. Right, this is
correct.
Still does not allow you to cache up the data. This does not allow you to work with this application offline. Right, this is online.
That's correct.
And this is again quite important to keep in mind. All right, so
there's some flexibility to it in the sense of like there's nothing to deploy. I think that's always the big benefit of a web URL is like IT doesn't have to go to certain devices and there's no dual factor authentication. It's just, hey, send the user an email, here's their username and password in it with a different URL. And so there's a little ease in that sense, but you definitely are limited in offline internet connectivity, right? If you are in a plane or you're traveling to a place that doesn't have connectivity, you obviously can't access the system. Just like you're checking your Gmail or Facebook, you can't get to the CRM. So yeah, there's some limitations there. But I'm on an iPad here just for the sake of real estate for the demo. Again, if I want an iPhone or a Surface tablet, you can use any different type of and it'll just render because it is HTML5. So if I'm running a different screen, it'll render a little different depending on the device I'm on.
Yeah.
But the main navigation and most of the content is still the same within mobile. There's a few things that are removed from the mobile UI, like marketing, in the sense of I'm not creating generally a full marketing campaign from my iPhone. I'm going to do that from the desktop, right? Most of the things that a salesperson would want to do, I can come in and I can view my accounts, my contacts, my leads, my opportunities. We'll get to that in a bit. But the first thing it does is it takes us to my schedule. Where do I need to be? Who do I need to visit? What are my activities for the day? So it puts it in this tile view. Anywhere there's an ellipsis, it gives me the ability to kind of quickly drill through. The mobile UI was intended to be quick and easy. You're not supposed to live in this like you are the desktop. If I haven't had a desktop, I'm in a dual monitor. I've got CRM open all day, Outlook maybe open in another. Mobile's the purpose is, hey, let me get in, get the data I need, and then either put my phone back in my pocket or shut the laptop so I can go shake hands and kiss babies, right? So I want to be able to get quick action. So I need to review a proposal with this contractor. I need to get some information about a quote here and then follow up on this lead. So I can click through into this and it's going to take me to this specific activity. So I could complete this activity if I wanted, or if I want to come back. And the example I usually give is, as a good sales rep, I'm going to go visit a client and I get into the parking lot 10 minutes early. So I want to go and look up that account real quick. So we were in that Abbott account a minute ago. And so just by using the global search, it'll pull back up Abbott. Again, from here, I could call them. One of the things that mobile phones still do well is they're still phones amongst the millions of things they do. So if I wanted to, I could call them. I could add a note into the system, so some kind of quick actions, or just drill through into the account view. So now this is me sitting in the customer's parking lot and getting some information about Abbott because I'm going to go in and have a meeting with them, but I want to prepare, right? So I want to understand, were there any invoices that just came in that I want to thank them on? Do they have any new tickets that I want to make sure that I let them know I'm handling? So at the top, there's some quick actions. So I can schedule an activity, put a note into the system. I can create a new quote. So with my iPad, if I'm visiting with a client in the showroom or I'm in the back room talking to them, I can generate a quote or an order from here. But most of the information that you would expect, kind of the CRM 101 stuff, is here. So I can see, do I have any open opportunities with them? Infor calls them tickets versus, the Creatio cases, and then the notes in history. So again, I'm just trying to understand my relationship with this account before I go visit them.
Sure. And this makes a lot of sense, right? When you're talking about having a lot of data handy. But if one thing that I've noticed, there wasn't really any connection between what you did on desktop to what you're now doing on mobile, right? So you still had to kind of search for the same Abbott, knowing that you're kind of coming and visiting, right? So if you were to start your day, you would have to remember who was on your schedule first from what you were searching on the desktop, let's say a day before, right? Or maybe last week when you were preparing for the trade show, right? Second,
that's correct.
Say you're out of data, say you're not connected, right? You lost connection to CRM, you don't have anything there. Third, there are certain limitations, again, to the specific types of users who can access the mobile app, right? And they have quite a lot of stuff that might not even be relevant to them, right? So as a sales guy, you might need to have access to the service history. I agree there. But not having access to marketing history, well, how do you know which campaigns that they were receiving, right? How what bulk emails were sent out? Maybe there was a special promotion running out of it, right?
For sure.
And also, this is as well kind of taking out another layer of automation, if you think about it, because nowadays the manufacturers for the mobile devices, right, they are trying to incorporate their virtual assistants into pretty much any aspects of working with their applications, right? So I've read an article somewhere that every year more and more users of Siri are growing percentage-wise, right? So more and more people talk to their devices. And this is also affecting the way that the enterprise applications are being created, right? Where they have to be Siri enabled. You have to be able to call up for the app, search for data, and use your virtual assistant and pretend like you have a PA in a certain way.
Right. Alexa, close that deal for me, right? Yeah, exactly.
And order
you brought up a lot of good. That's exactly right. So you brought up a few good points. So just for the sake of the battle, to kind of clarify. So one of the first things you mentioned was kind of the disjointed between the two. There is the idea, if you remember, I created the group of my Missouri customers. If I saved that as a group, I could view that group here within mobile. So at the account level, there is the idea of viewing. In the demo environment here, there is none, but you can. But to your point, you have to go in, save that group, come in here, pull that group back up, and it would pull my Missouri customers, or I could save my Phoenix customers. And then the only kind of automation that we have, which is pretty nice, is the ability to talk using voice to text. They do have the ability to talk notes into the system. So any free-form field. So conversely, I was showing here in mobile, preparing for the meeting, right? What do I know? Are there any tickets or cases that I need to look at before I go in? But conversely, when I walk out of that meeting and I go back into my car, maybe I want to put a note into the system about how that meeting went. You can use voice to text, and I can talk my notes into the system here. Now I'm in an emulator, so I'm typing. So any free-form field, you would have your keyboard.
But again, objecting that one as a feature, this is a device feature. This is not an app.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. They all Infor did is they took advantage of the Siri functionality in your iPhone. Same way with the mapping. So if I go to any contact and I want to look at, here's Lou, he's the CEO of Abbott. If I want to come in and get his address, I can click view address, and it's just launching my phone's mapping capability. So you're exactly right. It's going to launch my Apple Maps.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Oh, but Apple, well, not exactly Apple
So
Maps. This is
it
still an
would.
iFrame. This is not bringing you to the Apple Maps,
So
right?
that's because I'm in the emulator here. It is
Okay.
launching the Google. If I was in my iPhone, or it would bring up my Apple Maps, and I could do turn by turn direction, but it's just taking advantage of your phone's technology,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
I mean, and this is normal. I mean, like in Creation, we do use the native capability of the mobile devices as well, and quite a lot, right? So, but
Yeah.
just keep in mind that it's not just the maps, right? It's not just the dictation, so not even the voice to text, but it's basically dictation feature, right? But it's also
Yes.
about the like in Creation, we utilize the caller ID. If you don't have your customer phone on your personal contacts, but it is in your mobile app, it will actually do a cross search across all of the apps, right? It will search in Creatio's mobile app and do a lot of stuff there. But
Yep.
I'm getting ahead of myself, right? So basically,
Yep.
this is how would you use the mobile device with Infor,
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
perfect. So in this
Correct.
case, let's just switch over to my screen, and I'm going to ask the broadcast manager to switch to my mobile view, just so that we can have a look at what is happening in Creatio. And in this case, basically what we have here is it is a different view. This is not an emulator, right? This is actually our mobile app. I'm just kind of uh, mirroring it from my phone using Zoom. And the way that it kind of works is that first of all, this is an app. This is not accessed through the mobile web browser, right? This is something that you download on Apple Store. You download it on Google Market, right? You just throw in your credentials. You can well under settings right here. You've got your server address. You've got different workplace, and I'm going to cover that in a minute. And additional settings if they are enabled. And the way that it
Yeah.
works with us is that because this is a mobile app, it is configurable, right? And you can create different mobile applications for different purposes. So the way that the industry name is purpose-based mobile app. Different user roles might end up and might result in having different mobile applications. If you're in sales, if you're in account management, if you're in service, if you're our field service agent, if you're field sales, if you're a marketing user, all of those user roles might have their own dedicated mobile application that is configured through our local environment. And just for a point of comparison, Scott, as far as I know, there is no configuration of the Inforce app.
Yeah. So yeah, good clarity point. You can configure it, but if I make a change in desktop, there is no easy way to make that same change into mobile. Meaning, I can change the screen if I want to add a field, but it is HTML code,
It's
and I
dead.
need to go in and read. Correct.
So
On
it's
mobile,
not
I need
not
to
not
rewrite that
yeah.
configuration.
So it's not configuration. It's development in Infor versus configuration in
It is
Create.
code.
Okay,
It is
perfect.
code. I'm writing code in mobile. I have to do it twice. If I want to
Yeah.
change a subtype field, I'm doing it in desktop, and then I have
Hmm.
to go into HTML and write code to do it again in mobile.
Perfect. So this is what I wanted to kind of bring up, right? And in this case, obviously, what you guys can see on my screen right now is that we also have all of the same dashboards kind of displayed, right? I can switch between multiple dashboards that I have the access to. And it's kind of just, mirroring my desktop access in this case. But the sections, what you can see on the left side right here, is actually what can be configured, right? So you can decide which objects, which sections you want to display. So currently I have contacts, accounts, activities, dashboards, and feed, right? But if I wanted to have opportunities, just bring them in. If I wanted to have orders, bring them in. And it's all just part of the configurations through low code. And obviously, because one of the resulting steps that we had completed when we were working on the desktop were adding some of the tasks in our schedule, right? This is where I can actually access my schedule, what was created for me, right? And this is where I've got these tasks, these meetings already available on my mobile app. And because we are operating, by the way, in both online and offline mode, right? If I'm online, means that my schedule is being synchronized, like the moment that I'm opening up my app, right? And I'm
Yep.
always up to date. Offline means that if I am on the road, if I'm on a plane, I don't have access to the internet, I can still work on my tasks, I can still work on my pipeline, make changes to it, leave notes, and so on. And obviously, this is where I can open up one of the activities, right? And I can look at who am I visiting, right? Okay, so I've got Alpha Business and Alexander Wilson. If I wanted to look at the details of Alpha Business, everything that has been displayed is right here. Obviously, you can use the native capability of calling directly from the record of Alpha Business, right? I can pull up their address, and yes, in this case, I will be moving towards the Apple Maps, right? But this is kind of normal when it gets to using the native capability of the mobile application. This is something that everybody's doing, right? But obviously, this can be using as well some of the Horoscope. This might be using the location devices or location services. In what way? So because we are now a field worker, right? Because we have this visit scheduled.
Yep.
Uh, again, and this is something that I wanted to bring up a few times. I have a certain structure on my visit, right? And this is mostly required and requested by those companies that are in pharma sales, pharmaceuticals, right? Those that are running field sales in general, and roles that are somewhat connected to it, like field technicians, where they do have a few steps and items, checkpoints that they need to complete during the meeting. For example, right here in the kind of lower area of the screen, you've got the check-in option, right? You've got the tumbler to say that, okay, you know what, we've checked in, we've arrived at the customer location, right? This is me sitting in the parking lot or just walking into the office. And from there, if I'm going through the conversation, I can pull up some of the recent marketing material that was actually created and added. The way that I'm doing it, I'm just switching on the presentation, right? And this is going to be uploading the PowerPoint or the PDF that I have that was actually added by the marketing department in our knowledge base articles, right? And you can see here the Creatio PowerPoints, and I could mirror it from my phone on the flat screen and so on, right? If I'm talking to the customer, right, and I would like to place an order, straight away from here, saying order placement is going to bring me to the ordering module. It's going to pull up all of the all of the product catalog that we have in the main application, and it's going to allow me to actually add all of the products straight away. So right here, I've got products in order, right? I can switch between the product catalog levels, and I can say that I'm just going to add 5,000 of these. Why not? Sounds like a good order for me, right? And once I'm done, this is basically checking me out, right? This is completing this activity. And what we'll do in the background as well, that it actually will kick off the process of creating an order specifically, right? Adding all of those products that I've specified into that order, and my back office operations can kick off immediately as well because I've just completed it, right? Of course, there can be another layer of a process that's going to be supporting this. There can be another level of approval that we're going to be completing, right? And I can, of course, just jump into this activity and add any kind of results. I can add any notes. I can, of course, use the dictation that has been enabled on my phone, right? So everything here is possible. It is the same. But if we compare this to the Infor side, right, this is not necessarily what we've seen there, because we didn't have any activity plan. We didn't have any task created. We didn't have any kind of steps that need to be completed as part of the visit per se, right? I'm pretty sure you could have placed an order, right? But that would be
you can do those for the sake of the battle. You can have those in there, absolutely. It's not as automated as I think is what you just showed. So if I'm a field technician, I absolutely can have my schedule, my activities, my tasks against the visit. I guess to word it right, there just needs to be a little planning on the front end of what I need to do. So whether it's myself or maybe a service manager scheduling tasks for his people, you can have those. It's just not quite as automated as what you just showed. So those things are there. You can use it to complete an activity or view what tasks I would have while I'm on site for that visit. But you're kind of manually going in on the front end to upload those.
Yeah, well, but we also all know how, if now the regular sales reps are asking for more automation, right? They're asking for more intelligence.
Oh, absolutely.
Supporting their sales processes. The field workers that are always on the road, always on the run, they want to do less and get the same results, right? Because they're always...
That's what you want when you implement a system like this, is do more with less, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Scott, I think I'm good on my mobile app. Do we have anything else we wanted to demo from the desktop perspective?
I don't think so. I think that fit our agenda. We wanted to walk through kind of the lay of the land for some of the folks that haven't seen the system, scheduling, and then what it looks like while they're out and about. So I think we're ready maybe for some pricing discussions, feature discussions, things like that.
Actually, I would want to spend like another second on the desktop view for Creatio, because there's another thing that kind of needs to be brought up, if you don't mind, right? So I'm just going to ask the broadcast managers to kind of move to Creatio for a moment. And what I actually wanted to show here, right, is the fact that not only have we kind of completed these steps that have been already completed for us on the schedule, right, but we can actually drill down into this activity that was completed for us, right, and we can look at some of the results of this visit, right. Specifically, what do I mean by that? Well, definitely there is already an order created, right, that we might access, and I kind of mentioned this, that this might be already kicking off a process of delivery. This might be kicking off the process of actually generating an invoice, the work order, and whatever is going to be running here. But also another point on the activity side and on the visit side are actually our checkpoints, right, and our action visits, visit actions, sorry, where if you remember, right, when I was checking in and then I was like completing every step, I mentioned that we do use the location services. And the way that we do those is that we actually capture where exactly the position was of the user and where was their planned position, right? So if they are different from the perspective of where this field sales rep or field worker had to be, right, this can as well alert the supervisor, this can alert the managers saying that, well, this guy's cheating a little bit, right? So maybe you should look at So
he's sitting on his couch in his house completing that activity. He's not at that
orders.
location, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, this is requested by some of the organizations that I've spoken to over the years, right? Obviously, not everybody wants to create this kind of a sense and feel of a Big Brother's watching and whatsoever. But we need to keep in mind that this is a helpful feature, right? This is another thing that might make organizations more efficient, productive, and successful with Creatio. All right. Well, that was all. Now this is all right from the demo perspective. Let's talk a little bit more about pricing, limitations, like everything that we like to talk about when we get to these product battles.
Yep.
So,
the licensing. Sorry. Sorry. So the licensing difference, with Infor versus Creatio. Infor really has a one user license type. You can't go and just say, I want a sales user, I want a marketing user, or a service user. Though there are the four pillars of the system that I showed on the front end, it's really kind of an all or nothing. And through some configuration, you can absolutely hide those entities. So if I'm a salesperson and I'm not creating marketing campaigns, you can absolutely, through your user role, remove that for that user. Or conversely, if I'm a service technician and I'm not creating opportunities, I can hide the opportunities and sales section. But you're getting everything, right? It's kind of the blessing and curse. You get everything, but you pay for everything. They don't have it broken out into different entities.
Sure, but
and there are add-ons for marketing.
How much is the license, the base license for all of the modules?
Yeah, it's $70 a user a month for their cloud, and then it's $1,000 one time for on-premise. If customers still want to go on-prem, they can buy it, and it's the traditional, old school on-prem option, or it's $70. And they've got a user minimum. It's actually more of like an order value minimum of $28,000 is their minimum. So it's $70 a user a month, but then the order minimum is $28,000.
Wow. So that's quite a lot, right?
Your little mom and pop shop likely won't fit that wheelhouse, right? It'll be more for the medium-sized companies is the target market that Infor is going for.
Yeah, and also like another thing is what we've kind of discussed before, and we know of that Infor is kind of a better option for those companies that use Infor ERP, right? So it
A
is,
million percent.
yeah, but still, like, even if you consider that, the sales and the CRM function are separate from the ERP function, right? Still, you might have an application with a better kind of integration capability, the overall better Salesforce automation capability, right? Better marketing capability and service capability. Like, I believe it makes sense to consider other CRM options if they give you better flexibility, right, and better results. Because
I don't argue with you, Alex. But and that is, and I think I even heard it in a couple of the other Infor battles that were done before this. Is that's really, I think, the direction Infor is going, is integrating into Infor ERP. That's their feather in their cap. That's how they win. Is they know they're a little more expensive, but they have a good integration into the financials. So orders, invoices, shipments are easy, but it may not be necessarily the best of breed CRM, but it has a great integration, and that's okay, right?
yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, well, and we all remember that the upgrade cycle and the support for Infor is a little bit more difficult than of Creatio, right? There
Yeah.
is definitely limitations on the configuration side, on the functionality side. So there is a certain, I would say, old schoolness to Infor that you would have to deal with when it gets to working with it, right? And
Yeah.
definitely a lot of points to consider for those companies that are evaluating Infor as a choice for CRM, for their field workers, for their field technicians. And also another point,
Yeah.
as far as I know, there is no kind of way of building in a field technician on Infor natively, like in the same, because it's all going to be based on manual testing
Oh,
actions.
that's correct. Yeah, it could be configured to do it, but there's no marketplace add-on or anything of that nature to do true field service like what you showed.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Well, Scott, this has been a very interesting battle, very great discussion. Like, as always, I enjoy having
Good.
you on our product battles. I would
Thanks.
like to make a few announcements before we call it a day. Well, definitely, just looking at the broadcast page, that the votes are kind of going 70% pro Creatio, 30% pro Infor. I'm very curious to see the 30% that are voting for Infor. Maybe that's the old schoolness that I was kind of referring to, right? But
Yeah.
definitely want as well mention that. Well, thank you all for the votes. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and questions. I have been keeping an eye on the chat area. I've seen a lot of questions there and a lot of engagement. I would like to announce that our next product battle is going to be happening on the 24th of September. Keep an eye on the updates on the topic of that product battle, and as well reminds and inform our viewers that on the 28th of October we're going to be launching the first of its kind, a 24-hour worldwide Accelerate event, our annual conference that is now going to be 24 hours long. So we're going to be broadcasting all day through our broadcast page, through other channels and other means of communication, where we're going to be, sharing our thoughts, our progress throughout the day, our view on the market, and really try to spread the love on the low-code CRM side and invite a lot of very bright minds to join us for that event. So we encourage everyone to register for that event. You should have the link in the chat area right now. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to, stay up to date with our marketing events, with our publications, with our battles, creation arenas, webinars, and discussions. At this point, Scott, thank you very much again for your time. Wish you a great day, and hope to see you soon.
You too, Alex. I'll take off the boxing gloves. That was a good fight. Look forward to the next one, my friend. Have a great afternoon.
Cheers.